Hi guys, and welcome back to my seed starting series. Today we are at around 11 weeks to our average last frost date, and I will be starting my peppers. This kind of goes against some of my usual advice, which is to start when the seed packet says, and this is some peppers here, and they say start 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost. But this is where those exceptions come in. So with peppers, they actually technically are perennial. A lot of people will bring their peppers, like grow them in pots, bring them in over the winter, and then they will regrow. So to me, that just says peppers are a little bit of a hardier plant. Also, peppers are very slow growing, so they will take a lot longer to germinate and get established than, say, a tomato, generally speaking. And thirdly, for us gardeners in our short seasons, peppers generally take a longer time to produce. So if I would start them 6 to 8 weeks before my last frost, if I have 150, 160 growing days. But I only have about 120-ish frost-free growing days. So I'm going to start these early and get them well established so I can get a good harvest in my garden. Let's go over all the varieties I am growing. First off, I'm going to grow some King of the North. Now I have grown these in the last couple of years. They're not my favorite pepper. They're very thin-walled. They do produce, and they're nice little compact plants, but the thin walls to me, I don't feel I'm getting as much pepper for each pepper as opposed to the thicker walled ones. So I'm just going to go ahead and start what's left of these seeds because they do grow and it's nice just to have that variety. So for peppers, I usually just put 1 or 2 per cell. Some people will multi-sow them like the tomatoes, and then you can go ahead and separate them. I'm putting like 2 to 3 per each cell, and I will go ahead, if they all germinate, separate them when I up pot them to bigger pots. Next, I'm going to grow this Frigitello. I grew this last year. Again, I was not super impressed. I got some peppers off of it. It's just a small Italian frying pepper. It just did not produce as well as some of my other plants. I'm going to give it another try because I have the seeds, the space, and you just never know. Maybe it was a bad year for them. And again, I'm just going to put 2 to 3 per cell here. The problem with multi-sowing is sometimes you can overplant. Like I just planted probably, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 plants. I don't need 18 of these plants. I only wanted 2 or 3. Of course, I always like to give some to family and friends and even sell my extras, but you just have to watch with how much you can handle because once you go ahead and up pot these into bigger pots, they really do end up taking up a lot of space. Next, I have the King Crimson. This is just your standard. It's supposed to be a red pepper. It's supposed to be good for our northern climates. Again, I grew it last year. It didn't produce super well for me, but we're going to give it another try. Maybe I'll just put 2 in each of these because then that'll be 12 and that should be a good amount. And again, these are a couple years old. Pepper seeds do last quite a while. So your older seeds, generally the germination, again, if they're stored correctly, the germination should still be really good on them. And how I like to plant the pepper seeds is just put them on the surface and then I just push them down with my finger, maybe like 1/4 of an inch. And then I can just kind of push the soil back on top and give it a gentle pat and tuck them on in until they germinate. Next, I'm going to be growing some sweet chocolate. This is a bell pepper that goes kind of like a brown color, like chocolate. Doesn't taste like chocolate. I've grown these for a couple years and they do really well for me. Only have a few seeds left, so we'll probably plant all of those. And then just another nice little addition to like different colors when you cut it up for your salads. These do actually turn color on the vine for me up here. Again, because I'm starting them a little bit earlier than they say, and I like to put them in a nice warm spot. Peppers really like the heat. So I make sure that they get a nice spot in the garden where they're gonna get lots of sunshine. Next, I'm gonna do these Torador peppers. Now these I really love. They're my favorite pepper that I grew last year. They're a little bit of that longer style bell pepper. I think they're a Romanesco pepper. And yeah, these just had super, super thick walls, really produced. I got a lot of peppers off each plant. They produced fairly early. I did get some to actually turn red on the vine. For me, if I can get a pepper to fully ripen on the plant, that is success, and I will grow that one all the time. So there's quite a few seeds here. I'm going to plant a lot of these ones. I'm going to probably put 3 per each little cell here. So the plan is I'm going to grow these ones in a big row for my crop garden because they produce so well, and with that really thick wall, I'm going to be able to like chop them up and freeze them so we can use them all winter. Maybe go ahead and you can dehydrate them as well and make a little bit of a pepper powder. And of course, we like to eat them nice and fresh in the summer. So with pepper plants, they do like heat, especially for germination. I have had success without a mat in the past just because I had a really nice warm growing room that I would put them up higher up where it's nice and warm and they germinated fine. Last year in my new little greenhouse in the shop, they didn't germinate very quickly for me. I ended up using a heat mat and that was able to speed things up. So if you are germinating these in a cooler room, I would recommend putting them on a heat mat or just finding the warmest, nice spot for them to be able to germinate. Now, of course, once they have germinated, you want to get them off that heat and just get that nice strong light on them. Next, I'm going to grow these Lesia ones. I've never grown these before. They have that thicker wall that I'm looking for. They're heart-shaped and they do mature to a red color. These are actually a Ukrainian heirloom as well. So that's kind of that more northern, cooler climate. And those type of peppers tend to do well for us. So I'm just going to go ahead and put 2 in each of these cells, try to rein myself in here because like I said, these seeds will last for a while. So I still probably have another 10, 12 seeds here that if I don't save my seeds, I can go ahead and plant them next year. It was at this moment I realized I messed up. Well, I may have just messed up a little bit and I just planted those Lesia peppers in with the Torador. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plant another round batch here of these Lesia peppers. And this will just have to be my little mystery cell. And what I'll do is as they grow, I'll separate them, put a question mark, it might be this or that. Once they start to grow, I'll be able to tell which ones are which. And we'll just go from there. It happens. I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason. So there was a reason I was supposed to grow a lot of Lesia peppers this year. I think it's actually Lesia, L-E-S-Y-A. Lesia? Pronunciations have never been my strong suit. Okay, so next we have just a bell pepper, just a sweet bell pepper. These were a free seed I actually got last year when I went to that seed swap. I grew these, but they were kind of crowded up top. Again, this year I'm going to definitely make sure I have the right space and the right areas to really be able to give everything the best chance that it has to grow. Yes, things like to be crowded, but they also can't be crowded to the point of not getting enough sun or nutrients or water. And it was at this moment that I realized I messed up again. And yes, I just put the extra bell pepper seeds back in the Lesia package. So next year we'll have a couple mystery packets there. My goodness, pay attention. Okay, next we have this nomad pepper. This is a new one for me. A lot of people recommend that gypsy pepper, which is a hybrid, just a small little, I think it's like a white cream colored pepper. These ones are what you would call a stabilized hybrid or gets into open pollinated where they've planted and saved seeds in enough generations. These seeds are growing true to what the parent plant was growing. So these are called a nomad pepper. And I'm just going to grow the 2 in each here. Okay, and then next is just a mini bell mix. These are just mini little bell peppers, kind of like I think you get them at the store, like a lunchbox pepper. A lot of people will actually just save the seeds right from those peppers with lots of success. And you can just buy peppers from the grocery store and save those seeds. And a lot of times they'll grow for you and you'll get peppers. You just don't know the variety. You don't know the length of growing days. But again, if that's what you have access to, that's what you want to try, you can really definitely do that. These little lunchbox mini bells are great for the kids' school lunches, although these won't be ready by the time they get out of school. Although when they go back in September, they will be ready for that. Okay, then next we have a sweet cubanelle. Grew these last year and they didn't do very well. If you watched my garden tour videos, it was nothing. I got a couple peppers later on in the year, but I'm going to give them a second go. I have a few seeds here left. I'm going to use up the rest of them. And if they don't produce this year, I won't buy any more seeds. If they do and we like them, I can grow more. I mean, if anything, we'll get at least a few peppers and then we will know, because I know a lot of people do recommend this one here. And then lastly for this tray, we're going to have some yellow banana peppers. We're not the biggest fan actually of the banana peppers. I just like to grow a few of them for pickled peppers, like pickled banana peppers. They always, I don't know, they always seem a little bit bitter for me. And I don't know if it's just the variety. I mean, they're just a yellow banana pepper or it's just how I'm growing them. I'm not sure, but we'll grow a few more of those. The kids do like them. Okay, we'll get rid of this one. As you can see, this time I kind of laid everything out so that I can make sure I have enough space to plant everything. First off here, we have some Lützauer paprika. These are basically just a paprika pepper for growing your own paprika powder. And I grew these last year and they did really well. They turned on the vine for me and I was able to dry them and grind them up and have my own paprika powder, which is always nice. Again, that way you just get that really fresh. Like what I've actually done is just dried them and left them whole, and then as I go through it, I'll grind them up. And that way you just really get that freshest product you can get. Save a couple of seeds in case for next year, but I am going to try and save some seeds for these ones. I had planned to save them last year, but what happened was I dried them in my dehydrator in my oven and wasn't thinking about kind of cooking the seeds. So I'm going to see, but I don't think the seeds are viable from those ones. One thing to remember is when you're saving seeds from peppers is that you want that seed to be fully ripened on the plant. So if you pick a green pepper, chances are that seed is not going to be viable and be able to produce more plants. So the ones that can actually, if I want to save my seeds, I got to let that pepper get really, really ripe on the vine. And then of course, afterwards, make sure that I just let it dry naturally, or I could just pick the seeds out and then go ahead and dehydrate it, dry it, process it how you want. Actually, I've heard if you have a freeze dryer that you can freeze, like if you're freeze drying your peppers, the seeds and such, or freeze drying your herbs, whatnot, that the seeds are still viable. Not sure on that one. I don't have a freeze dryer, but one day that would be nice to try. And next is this quinoa pepper, which is just a tiny little, looks like a little beaked pepper. Never grown these before, but they came recommended. They are not really spicy. They say they're like 1,000 on the Scoville units. So it's basically be like less spicy than a jalapeno pepper, just a little hint of spice. We will see. The seeds are little small seeds. Again, I'm planting these in 9-cell. I have a little 9-cell area. So I'm definitely just going to do the 2 seeds. And then I have a few left over for next year. Of course, you just like trying those new varieties every year. And those ones, sometimes they'll become keepers, sometimes they don't. And then you end up having all those keepers. The problem becomes when you start having so many keepers, must grows every year, that you just have to grow so many. I think I have about 25 varieties that I'm growing for this year. Okay, next we have early flame jalapeno. I think I only have a couple of seeds left in this one. Yeah, there's 2 seeds left, but then I've ordered these jalapenos from last year and it's an early jalapeno pepper. The 2 I have from this one, I'm gonna put in the cell where I have the marker so I know if I wanna just keep track if they are a little bit different. And then the other ones, I'll just put in these jalapenos. Jalapenos grow really well up here for me. I usually, again, by starting them early, I will generally get like 2 harvest kind of fleshes off of them, of course, because they keep growing. So I'll get a harvest kind of end of July into August. And then I will go ahead, as long as we have that, not an early frost into the early September, I will be able to continue to get that harvest, which is really great because we love jalapenos. We really love that, like the cowboy candy and pickled jalapenos and all that kind of stuff. Never really had enough that I can make jalapeno poppers and stuff, maybe this year. And then we're going to do some nadapenos. Again, I did that last year. They weren't really anything super special for me. Like they kind of almost tasted like a weird tasting green pepper. They just they have the shape of a jalapeno, but to me, it don't really have that jalapeno spice, so it wasn't really a jalapeno. And I did use half nadapenos, half jalapenos in my cowboy candy, and it was like not spicy at all, almost too sweet. So I think next year I'm just going to go straight jalapenos. I still have a bunch of these seeds, so they're kind of something fun to grow. We'll grow a few more of these ones. And then we have these pumpkin spiced jalapenos. I haven't grown these before. I'm not sure if I'll get them to be able to turn orange. I think I can, because if I can get 2 fleshes off a normal plant, I'll just leave these guys on the plant until they turn. It does say 75 days to maturity, so I should be able to get that. There's only about 10 seeds in this pack, so I'm just going to plant them all because we love the jalapenos and can definitely eat lots of them. I think if I just write pumpkin spice, I'll know what I'm talking about. From reading, it doesn't actually taste like pumpkin spice. It just has a little more of those notes to it, whatever that's supposed to mean. Next, we're going to grow this corbachi pepper. I've never grown it before either, just highly recommended. They say it looks kind of like a cayenne pepper, but it's sweet. We don't really like a lot of spicy things, just a little bit. So we prefer the sweet peppers, and we'll grow as many of those as we can. I'm not going to grow too many of those. We're just going to try them out. There's a few seeds in here. I'll just put 2 here. Because again, if I have 3 little places here and I'm putting 2 per pack, that's 6 plants. And however much I try to tell myself that, oh, it's in case they don't germinate, generally most of them do germinate. And I just have a really hard time pinching them off. They're growing. So I just end up potting them and end up with a whole bunch, but that's okay. Better to have too many than not enough, especially with peppers, because so if some of them don't germinate, yeah, you can go ahead and replant them. But then you're going to be behind. It's just easier to start out with what you need. We're also going to grow these Jimmy Nardello peppers, which again, they're kind of that long cayenne looking pepper. We'll see if there's a difference between the 2. I don't know if anybody's grown the Jimmy Nardello or corbachi. I don't know how similar they are. But the cayenne peppers grow really well for me here. So I'm like, oh, they look like a cayenne. They probably will grow nice for me. And a lot of people recommend that one. One thing YouTube gardening channels have done is really expanded the varieties that are I wouldn't say out there, but just like popular and people are growing in their garden instead of like when I first started growing, I want to grow a cucumber, I want to grow a green pepper, a red pepper. And then you start watching these videos and you can see that there's so many varieties, and it's nice getting experience because again, I say you read the catalogs and all the catalogs say, oh, like they'll sell you on it. And I'm sure a lot of it's true, but you just never know when you hear the people talking about, oh, I've grown this and this tastes good and this and that. It just gives you that firsthand experience of what the pepper is like. These ones here are a poblano pepper, which do really well for me. And we like growing those ones. I think these are the ones that you can smoke, and I think they're called an Anaheim chili after you smoke them, which I don't think we did any last year, but my husband did build a smoker. So maybe we'll try to smoke some of them this year. You can do that actually too with the paprikas, is you smoke them and you have smoked paprika powder, which I definitely want to try this year because that in a chili is really, really good. Okay, and now we're going to grow some Sugar Rush Peach. Grew these last year. They did really well for me. They got quite a few off each plant. They matured on the plant. Again, I kind of dehydrated them in my oven there, so I don't know how good the seeds are. Thankfully, I have a lot here. And I'm going to go ahead and plant quite a few of these ones because this year I want to try to make our own hot sauce. And I feel that these would be really good in a hot sauce. Like I said, we don't use a lot of peppers, but when you're making hot sauce, you can probably fit quite a few in there. My plan also was to make a peach habanero jam, which I didn't do last year, but maybe we'll try that this year. I know some people will use like a dibbler or like use a pen like this to poke the hole. I just really like getting my hand in the dirt, and I feel like I'm just kind of tucking the seeds into bed, giving them that little bit of energy and love so that they will sprout and grow really well. Okay, and then we have a habanero. I grew these last year. I did end up getting a few, but habaneros are so small. And again, we don't really like the spicy too much. You know, the peach habanero jam, I did make that a couple years back and we did really enjoy it. So we'll just grow a few more of these. We're going to be making the hot sauce. The hotter the pepper, the longer it takes them to mature. I don't grow any of the super hots. Like the habanero is the hottest pepper that I grow. And then we're going to grow these habanadas. So these are the habaneros that aren't spicy. I don't think I got any of these to fruition last year, but I mean, it says 70 to 100 days. 100 days is pushing it for me here with the peppers because again, we can get cooler temperatures. So if we have, I have 120 growing days, but if we have a really cool summer, it's not going to get the heat that it needs. Ideally, I'd like to get a high tunnel, and we kind of are doing a little bit of a do-it-yourself one. Hopefully we'll have that ready. If not this year, maybe next year, because having that high tunnel will just add those extra heat units that you need. Again, what you can do is you can cover it. You can get like a little cloche, they call it, cover it, because once the peppers get too cold, they will actually stunt. They can just not grow as well. In the fall, if we're getting cooler nights, I can maybe go ahead and throw a little bit of a low tunnel over there. We'll see. Okay, and then we're going to grow some serrano peppers. These are they're very similar to a jalapeno, just smaller and hotter. One year, the first year I ever made like my big batch of cowboy candy, it was super spicy. Thinking back on it now, I think I bought serrano peppers because they were really small. I remember cutting them up. And these are the smallest jalapenos I've ever seen. And yeah, I think they were serrano peppers. I did leave the seeds in. So if you don't want it as spicy, go ahead and take those seeds out. Like that's what I did last year. I took all the seeds out and then they were not spicy at all. But we'll find that balance here sometime. Just going to grow a few of those serrano peppers. Okay, and the next step, we have our Peter peppers. I'm so interested to see what these are going to look like. I have, how many seeds we got here? I think I'm going to start maybe like 10 or 12. Maybe I'll save a few seeds for next year, but I think I'll start most of them because I would like to maybe give some of these away as gifts and everybody can enjoy them in their garden this summer. And then I also want to be able to get enough of them that I'm going to be able to pickle some maybe for some Christmas gifts. And another thing to note too with starting your peppers so early is as they're growing inside, you want to pick off any sort of buds or blossoms that you see until they get transplanted in the garden, because I did an experiment last year. I left those flowers on and that plant put all of that focus into growing that one little pepper, and then that was all I really got from it. So as these grow and get bigger, you will start to see flowers coming off of it, and I just go ahead and pull them off as I see them. Once I plant them out, I'll generally maybe for a week after I've planted them, if I see some, I'll just pull them off. Then they can focus on growing those roots and getting established. And then you'll see they put on a ton of flowers and fruit. I do have a couple more seeds here that I'm going to plant, but I'm going to get a bigger tray because I'm planting a lot of them. And that is some jalapenos that I saved from last year, from those early jalapeno plants. I'm going to grow a big row of those out front too, as well as some cayenne peppers. Cayenne peppers grow really good here. And cayenne peppers are really good, like medicinally, they are great, they're a stimulant. You can use them in a lot of your cooking, and just that cayenne powder is really, really good. So I'm gonna go ahead from these saved cayennes, rake them open, and plant as well a whole big tray of cayennes to do a whole big row outside as well. So there we have 11 weeks and we have all of our peppers planted for the year. I can't believe it's going so quick and we're already planting our peppers, but here we are. And then next week at 10 weeks, stay tuned because we're going to be starting our brassicas, which is kind of crazy, but those things are going to get planted before our last frost. It's very exciting. And as always, thank you so much for watching and we'll see you next time. Bye.